Happy April! So our block this month in the Funny Faces Block of the Month Club is this cute little hedgehog. I've named her Heidi. So let's show you how to make it. I've got a bunch of different colors that I'm going to show you of this one. So first of all, we're going to start with looking at what the pattern looks like. So we've got a few different pieces on here. You've got the prickly body is this biggest piece. Then you've got the belly piece or the face piece. We've got a muzzle and we've got some eyes and nose. So all of those are going to be on your pattern pieces. And I wanted to just talk to you very, very briefly about colors because I like doing animals like this in not necessarily realistic colors. I think that that's a lot of fun to do, but I actually study realistic colors to help me choose colors so that even if they're crazy pretend colors, they look right. So what I noticed for hedgehogs is that they almost always come in either gray or brown, different shades of gray or brown. Almost always, the prickly body is the darker shade. The belly, the face, is a lighter shade than the prickles. And then the muzzle usually fades to darker than the rest of the body here. So what I'm doing, whether I'm doing realistic colors or fantasy colors, is I'm making the prickles be dark, this body piece be lighter, and then the muzzle either the same fabric that I used for the dark prickles or something close to it so that it gets darker though than the face piece. I want to be careful not to choose such a dark color for the muzzle that I can't see the nose and mouth. So that's going to be an important consideration. And if my prickles are very dark, I might choose a muzzle that's like a medium color. So think light for the face, dark for the prickles, medium for the muzzle in order to let that smile show up. So this is what your pattern is going to look like when you print it out. I've just printed this on the fusible adhesive. And the first thing you're going to do is rough cut everything out. So that means don't cut it on the line, cut it roughly out outside the line. And what that does, you want the adhesive to go right up to your cut lines. So if you roughly cut it out, then fuse it down, then cut all the pieces, you get the adhesive right up to that cut edge. So that's the first thing you're going to do is roughly cut all the pieces out and then fuse them to the fabric that you're using. And just follow the instructions on the package. I used the Heat and Bond Light. Different packages, different manufacturers will have different instructions. So follow the instructions. And here you can see my parts. So I've got the prickles, and they're on my darkest fabric. And you can see I just roughly cut around that prickly body. And then I've got a lighter fabric for my face. And then the last one is something pretty close to the prickles color, but a little bit in between it for the nose, for the muzzle, for the nose and mouth piece. And then I've just done the eyes and the nose on black. Actually, the gray hedgehogs usually have a black nose and brown hedgehogs have a brown nose, but I'm going to give all of mine a black nose because I just really like the eyes and the nose to all be solid black. So all of these pieces are roughly cut out and fused down. And now through the magic of television, I'm going to have them already cut out. So here are the pieces all neatly cut out now. This is what I call the clean cut, so you'll see that in your instructions. And I've also transferred the markings from the face. So remember, when you do your clean cut, you're going to cut right on the solid line, and you're going to leave a little bit of extra past a dotted line. And I'm sorry, I should have picked a different one. This is my original pattern. I forgot to draw that line on there, so I just drew in a solid line, but that should have been a dotted line. So you're going to cut directly on the solid lines and then leave a little bit of extra past what should be a dotted line. And then take that piece and hold it up to a window and you can see the face on there. That's why I leave the face markings and I don't just give you an empty piece. I want you to be able to see those positions, and by it being on the pattern that is fused to the fabric, you can see right through it really nicely. So what I've done is taken that, held it up to a window, flipped it over, and drawn on the fabric side. But what I've drawn is right inside the face line, so that when I lay it down, which you're going to see in a minute, it tells me where to position the face. So I've got the prickles, and now here I have the face cut out neatly on the solid line. And again, pretend this is a dotted line, and we're going to leave a little extra there, and you'll see why in a second. And then I transferred these face markings. I drew inside the eye circles and inside where the muzzle is going to be placed. And then for the muzzle, there are no dotted lines. That's just clean lines, so a straight line. So I just cut all around that. And I transferred the nose. I drew inside where the nose is going to be, and then I drew right on the line for the mouth. And then you can see up here, I've also got the eyes and the nose. So now we are going to layer all of these in place. So I'm going to peel off the backing, and I start with the body. Remember, imagine that that's a dotted line at the bottom. Peel off the backing. The adhesive is on the back of the fabric. And I'm going to put my raw edge of my body, let me scoot that up just a little bit. The raw edge of my body is lined up with the raw edge at the bottom of the block. And that way, that extra below, past the dotted line, is what's going to be sewn up in my seam allowance. So I've got this nice guide here for where I'm going to position the face. And I don't draw right on the line. I like to draw inside the line so that I don't have to be super careful when I put this down. I don't have to cover up those lines. I will naturally cover them because they fall inside the face. So now I do the nose, or the muzzle. And I've got a white line there. I didn't do a black line for the muzzle because I was afraid it would show through the not black fabric. So I've got his little muzzle there, and now I'm going to do the eyes. These eyes and nose are borderline pretty small. They're about as small as I like to do most of them. If you're not comfortable cutting or sewing around pieces that are so small, there are a lot of options. Look back at the lesson section of the Clubhouse, and I've got a post that I linked to that has all kinds of other ways to get the eyes and the nose if you don't want to applique them. So I have reviewed my favorite fabric markers and fabric paints you can paint them on. I have some free files. If you have an embroidery machine, I have free files available that you can download to your machine to satin stitch the eyes. There's a lot of different options available for you there. So I've got all my pieces layered in place. And the next thing I would do is fuse that down and then sew around the edge. So I'm going to pull back our original piece and show you how I did the stitching on it. Okay, this is the hedgehog from the original piece that I showed you to introduce Heidi. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I did the outline stitching on her. I always do just a simple straight stitch for all of my outlining. I love the kind of cartoony look that it gives when I do it in black thread. And I've been lately going around everything 3 times so that I get this kind of scribbly effect, kind of like a sketchbook. So I went around all of these prickles, and yes, it was a little bit fussy sewing. Go around all of those prickles all the way around the outside edge. I'll link to a tutorial that shows how to turn corners. It's probably a review for a lot of you, but just in case you're curious or don't know how to do it, you want to, anytime you're turning a corner, you want to stop, crank the needle down into the fabric, lift up the presser foot, and then you can pivot the piece and lower it, lower your presser foot back down, and then stitch the next section. Needle down, presser foot up, pivot, and do the next stretch. So you can work all the way around like that. Then I did around the head 3 times. I did around each eye, and I did around the mouth, the muzzle 3 times. For the mouth, I only went twice because I've got a really nice little method for when I have a mouth that's connected with a little down line. I like to go down 1 time, up the curve of one half of the mouth, back along that curve, so that doubles that up the other side curve, back down to the center, and then back up that center line. So going down, down, curve, 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 up. It does everything twice, and I don't have to stop and start at all. I just need to pivot and turn around. And then I just go around the nose and the eyes one time because they're black on black stitching on black fabric, and you can't see them. So I'll flip it over so you can see the back. And that is what all that stitching looks like from the back side with all of the knots. So there she is. That is Heidi Hedgehog. She's going to work really well to mix in with the woodland critters, and she'll also mix really nicely in with the wildflowers quilt if you want to have like a hedgehog in the garden. This is one that a lot of people have asked me for, and I'm so excited to finally do her. And I really like all the different fabrics that I chose. I like the realistic colors, and I like all the crazy rainbow colors. So if you want to see all the blocks that I showed you partially made as we went along, skip over to the show and tell section of the clubhouse, and I'll post all of those blocks finished up so you can see what they all look like. Have fun!